Alrighty, excited about this. So, just so you know, Simon is trying to create a monster. I'm getting really into gaming, getting really into streaming. So it's going to impact my day job. So, this is going to be exciting for me. But this is cool because, really interested in the streaming and video content space. And one of the cool things about over the past, day or so and the setup of these types of opportunities and then the kind of collective of the creators, it creates opportunities to kind of meet and mingle. And I think the two of you kind of have a cool story of how you interacted, how you got to get to know each other, and how you're on stage together right now. Do you want to kind of get into that a little bit, just for the audience's background?
Yeah, 100%. Maybe I'll start, I guess, with my background with content creation and gaming. So, how do I start this? I dropped out of college at my parents' behest to play mobile games 10 years ago. That was definitely an interesting conversation.
That's always a good move.
Yeah, definitely a straight. I said, hey, I want to play Clash of Clans full time online. And at the time, being an influencer, being a creator, and mobile gaming content creation at YouTube was, nothing. I think even mobile gaming revenue is maybe 5% of global games revenue, whereas today it's over 50%. That's how big mobile games have grown. For me, I just wanted to procrastinate for an accounting exam. So I downloaded Clash of Clans, fell in love with the game, started posting content online, and fast forward 10 years later, there's a super vibrant mobile gaming community that both Drew and I are a part of. And also as part of that, being a creator, I know that Colin and Samir and the conversation just previously talked a lot about the creator economy. Ended up starting a company called Tribe Gaming, where we field competitive mobile gaming esports teams, as well as work with a ton of different mobile gaming content creators to produce cool content. Of course, collaborating with Samsung on a lot of amazing things. So it's incredible to be here today. Super long 10-year journey, and I'll pass it to Drew.
So he said he was a very early mobile gamer, and I think you were the first.
Yeah, I literally used a phone to record another phone. That's how sketchy it was back then. So please don't pull up my first video.
So yeah, because he was the first, he's actually the whole reason I even created a YouTube channel to begin with. As I said, he was making like Clash of Clans videos, and I remember I was like super into Clash of Clans, and I was stuck on this thing called the Goblin base, and I couldn't beat it no matter what. So I looked it up online, and up pops Chief Pat.
Horrible video. I'm like heavily breathing in the mic, and like didn't know how to cut the take of the edit.
But I learned from it.
Yeah,
I beat the base. So then I went to his next video, beat that base, then the next video. Then I came back a week later, and I noticed I missed a video, and I was like, wait, how do I get like notified? So I had to subscribe. And in order to subscribe, I had to create a YouTube channel. And that's literally the only reason I created a YouTube channel. So if you didn't make Goblin-based tutorials, I don't even know if I ever would have made a YouTube video. Ever.
That's awesome. I'm glad those videos helped someone.
I'm crying. It's so emotional.
Hey, you said you wanted to start a career. The Goblin base is waiting for you. So
it's just, it brings back the memories. So when it comes to streaming and video content and monetizing within that platform, a lot of people think it's kind of reserved for the pros. And, we saw Marquez yesterday, and obviously he's been doing a lot of things for a while. From your perspective, how do you guys think about making that type of content more accessible to everyone, and kind of how to get involved with it?
Yeah, I mean, to start, I think what's beautiful, especially on mobile, is that, in order to create content, especially on a mobile device, speaking of gaming, you don't need an elaborate setup with a monitor, keyboard, mouse, all the above. Literally just using your device, you can start a career through content creation. And, you don't necessarily need to have the fanciest setup, the fanciest post-production. If you look at me, when I started my career, I literally used to film my videos in the laundry room of my dorm because that's the only place I had strong enough Wi-Fi, using a phone to record another phone. And surely the reason that people watched wasn't because of my production value at that time. It was because of the ideas and the content I was creating and the relationship that I was building with my audience at that point. So I truly believe, especially within mobile gaming, it's super accessible where anyone can get involved. There's so many ways that, again, just using your device, you can start recording. And from a monetization perspective, I think especially now more than ever, finding your niche and having a really strong relationship with your audience within that niche is something that brands want to work with in the end. And as a creator, you can absolutely use to monetize your channel. A lot of the creators we even work with at my company Tribe, they aren't necessarily the absolute biggest within their respective space, but they hold a niche that's super unique for their audience. That, you know, especially when we compare it up with the right brand, it's magic. So, you know, I think just because you're not necessarily pulling in Mr. Beast type views, that doesn't mean you can't find a super authentic relationship with a brand and start monetizing your channel.
I think nowadays, like creating content in general is more accessible than it's ever been. Like you said, I actually started the same. I taped my phone to the top of a dresser and recorded my tablet on the floor. And I couldn't even think about streaming because you needed a laptop, you needed a computer. Now I can pull out my S23 Ultra and you can swipe down, click one button and screen record your gameplay, or you can just go live straight to TikTok, straight to Twitch, straight to YouTube, just on your phone. Like that wasn't even possible just a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of drill down into that topic, the other thing about kind of streaming and put yourself in a video platform, it can be intimidating, right? Even to do kind of the things that you guys were just talking about. What advice would you have to those that are on the fence, trying to get yourself out there? In many ways, like for you, obviously your face is front and center. How would you just encourage people to take the first leap? And I don't know if there's anything in your background that enabled you to take that step.
I would say if you're sitting on the fence, just do it. Because you're just going to sit there the whole time thinking like, oh, I'm going to be live. What if I say something I shouldn't? I can't edit it. Just do it. And trust me, the second you click go live, you just forget about all that stuff and you just start having fun. And you're just focusing on what you're doing at the moment. And the more you think about it, the more scary it actually seems than it really is.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I always say that like clicking upload changed my life. That day that I clicked upload absolutely changed my life. And when I did that, you know, especially at that time, 10 years ago, being a creator, being an influencer wasn't a thing. It was just something I thought was fun. I didn't even know you could make a career or even monetize a channel at that point on YouTube. I thought it was just for cat videos. But I clicked upload. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool. I just wanted to do it. And it completely changed my life. So, you know, I think for people who maybe are hesitant about that first step or making that perfect first step, if you make that jump, that like, you know, you can't score. If you don't shoot, you can't score. And, you know, for me, even just following a passion for gaming and clicking upload with, you know, no thoughts beyond a couple of videos on YouTube, it changed my entire life for the better.
Yeah, I mean, what's really cool with the platform you guys use quite heavily, and something that's come up over the past 2 days, is just from a creator's perspective, but then also a tech and media consumption perspective, things changed dramatically over the last several years. So where would you say the space, streaming or video content in general, where was the space when you started? How would you compare that today, and where do you think it's going to go, and how that potentially impacts you as creators?
I would say when I started, like I said, it wasn't even accessible to me at all to stream, whereas nowadays anybody can just pick it up and stream. And back then it was just super simple, people just playing games, whereas now Twitch, a large portion of Twitch isn't even gaming related. Like you have people like Kai that are blowing up and they're basically doing YouTube videos, but like live. And then because they're doing that, they can then chop it up and create TikToks out of it, make YouTube videos out of it. And it's just come to this thing where no matter what niche you're in, you can still stream. Like I know some people that do makeup, and in the past it's like, if you're talking about gaming, like you can't stream doing makeup, but they'll sit down and they'll get tons of viewers just talking about their day, answering questions while they're doing makeup. And like you can literally do it for any niche.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as people are building like closer and closer relationships with their audience, streaming is the most authentic way, in my opinion, to just like sit down. I feel like almost with, you know, YouTube and VOD, you're so carefully curating a lot of different things of your video and this take and this take, and it's a different feel than when you sit down and stream and you're in front of the audience for 6 hours in the end. You can't always do the quote unquote YouTube voice that my parents make fun of sometimes. Like it's your real authentic self when you're sitting there for hours in the end. And, you know, while that initially, I would say like in the beginning of my career, you'd sort of have to, you know, you'd have to mix your personality alongside playing some sort of game or something else to keep the audience entertained. It feels like nowadays, even just being your authentic self online, you can do anything and build that relationship with your fans.
Cool. You know, just kind of looking through some of the things popping up on the live stream and just some of the speeches over the past couple of days. I think the people watching, they're really kind of like in the weeds and wanting to know the process. And I know Marilyn talked to this, others talked to this yesterday about their different art forms. So when it comes to streaming and developing video content and all that, what type of setup do you use, whether it's changed or not currently? Can you just maybe get a little bit more in terms of how you go about doing that, what equipment you use?
Yeah, how has yours evolved? I'm definitely not in my laundry room dorm anymore.
Yeah, me neither, definitely not. Now I have like a whole setup I have like a 3-monitor setup, and I use like a capture card to get the best possible quality from my device. And then that goes straight to my PC where I can hook up like the best camera, the best microphone. And it's like a lot more than just being on my phone recording it with another phone like it used to be. And it's super accessible to get all this stuff too nowadays. It's not as crazy as it seems.
Yeah, I've even heard, I use a really similar setup to Drew, just plug my S23 via capture card into computer, webcam, DSLR that works. But it's crazy nowadays, like some mobile creators will even take like 8 devices at once and plug them all in and have them running while doing like, clan war attacks and all of them all together. I mean, it sort of blows my mind, and especially being in mobile gaming for 10 years now, you see some of these crazy things. You started in Fortnite Mobile, where that was like that was my I'm getting old moment, where all of a sudden people playing on their devices, literally they started using the claw. Normally when you think of playing a game like, let's say Call of Duty Mobile, you're just putting your 2 thumbs on the screen. These kids were literally putting their 4 fingers on both sides on a smartphone and like playing Call of Duty. And at that point I was like, I'm going to stick in the game I'm in. I don't need to necessarily try to figure out the claw. So things have evolved so much since the very beginning, whether how you actually create the content or even how you like game on devices themselves.
And that's what started the hand cam. Because people were like, how are you pressing all those buttons with 2 fingers? I'm like, well, I use 5. And they're like, no. So then everybody started putting hand cams on their videos too with their face cam, so you can see that.
I stuck with a camera for my cat, so.
Nice. So one of the great things about hearing from the different creators is some of the quote unquote mistakes or interesting stories when they first started out. I don't know if either one of you were in fragrance commercials, but what was the biggest rookie mistake you made getting started, or when you started as a professional? So whether it was like from the get-go or just when you kind of get really serious, any kind of juicy stories you can tell or mistakes that would be helpful for others?
I think one that I definitely regret looking back on would probably be, or not necessarily regret, but a learning I had like over the course of YouTube is, your audience, especially every single video you make could be the first impression with someone who's watching your channel for that very first time, especially as you build a fandom and you build a following of people who are watching every single video or most of your videos that you end up posting. You sort of lose track that, hey, every single time you're posting a video, this is the first impression you're making on someone who could potentially be a new fan in the end. And if you get too complacent in your ways as far as what type of content you're producing, not continually innovating what you're doing and continuing to make that better. And if you feel sort of stuck to I need to be posting X amount of videos per week, you're going to dilute, ultimately why you're making these videos instead of having every video be a 10. If you're making a 6, again, whether it's someone watching for the first time saying, just not really into this channel, or a fan that's been watching for a long time, or, Chief Pat's fell off, like his content's not the same that it is. That's such a fickle relationship that you have, and maybe less fickle, but it's more delicate to where, you can't just mail it in the end. And, especially back in the day, 7 years ago on YouTube, where I was like, you need to be uploading at the same time every single day, this, and this. Fast forward to today, that's absolutely not the case. Like, not ultimately how you should be, building your channel. So.
Yeah. I would say, it's one of those things where it's one step at a time. And like you were saying, like people say you fell off. No matter what you do, one portion of the crowd is going to be thinking that. You can't please everybody. You just have to do kind of what you're passionate about. And when you dedicate your time to that, it'll eventually pay off.
Cool. Building off a little bit on that, with you two specifically and the type of content you guys develop and produce, what's kind of maybe the easiest, quote unquote, or most difficult part of what you're developing, particularly like within the kind of mobile streaming or video space? Anything that kind of comes out as what comes naturally easy for you, more challenging for you?
For sure. I think with mobile gaming in general, nowadays it's like, back in the day, you can make a video on anything and upload it and people would watch it. But now it's gotten so competitive where you can spend so many hours making a video and just at the end of the day be like, that's not it. Like, that doesn't compete with like what other people are uploading. And I feel like that's the hardest part about mobile gaming right now and trying to be the best or create the best type of content to stick out. It's just putting in the time, especially when you're playing games like Fortnite, where each game is like 30 minutes each and you could play like 5 of those and then still not have a video. I'd say that's the hardest part for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just continually ideating, and especially as things, it was a much different landscape when both of us started on YouTube, and as more creators joined, and especially in gaming, where the amount of games that maybe are viable online and through content are limited. And as those spaces get more crowded, you just have to continually innovate to make sure that you're improving the level of quality of your content. So
Yeah, that makes awesome sense. So obviously we touched upon kind of the idea of how do you monetize streaming and things like that. What would you say is the first step in monetizing your gameplay? Or when do you start making money? Like, what's that journey look like when you think you're ready to explore those types of opportunities?
So my very first sponsor, I definitely was not ready for it. It's one of those things where you're like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I was making Clash of Clans videos, taping my phone to a desk and recording the tablet. And then people like you started coming out with this crisp gameplay of screen recording. And I was looking into it, and all of them had like subscriptions, and I just could not afford it. So I took a link to one of my videos and I sent it to one of the screen recording apps, and I was like, hey, I'll put your like logo on my videos if you give me like a free subscription. And then from there, then they started paying me because they were performing well, and then other people were like downloading it through my link. And from something that it was just like a shot in the dark, it became my first ever sponsorship. So it's kind of one of those things where when it's right, it happens.
yeah, I mean, I remember for me, again, starting my channel, I had no idea that, content creation was a career at the time. It was just out of passion and fun. And I remember my mom visited me at school after I like turned on monetization. I was like, Mom, I'm making $10 a day. I'm going to get Chipotle for free every single day. I'm going to be eating good, eating these burritos, and I'm going to go get a real job out of college, and I'm going to be eating great. I had no idea what this was going to turn into. I just checked that monetization box and I'm getting free lunch. This is amazing. And definitely opportunities at that time were so much different. Even from a viewership perspective, while views were super strong within mobile gaming, even for the first 3 or 4 years on YouTube, brands and people hadn't really noticed yet, and it was more underground, more not necessarily as mainstream as PC and console gaming, as mobile was still developing some of these AAA titles and these new games. So it's definitely changed now to where outside of just traditional monetization as far as ads go through the platforms themselves, you don't necessarily have to have, I think the viewership requirement to start monetizing and working with brands now is so much lower than it was back in the day, to where if you, again, have that deeply connected niche audience within your respective category, especially in our world where mobile game publishers and developers are always trying to get in front of a new audience, especially our audiences, you can definitely find a match and start working with games as well as other brands and partners who, want to basically build a relationship with you and your audience. So it's now more than ever, there's those opportunities. It's just a matter of finding your niche.
Like 5 years ago, we'd have to wait 2 years for every new game to come out and work with those brands. Now there's new games coming out every few months.
One question that just kind of popped up hearing you guys tell your stories. Who, whether it's from a creator perspective or in your case, you run a company. I mean, you have a whole team. You're doing a lot of different things. Who inspires you, whether it be from a creator perspective or any facet in your perspective? Who do you currently look to for motivation, inspiration, or maybe in the past who was a big motivating force for you?
For me, it's not one specific person, but I watch so much content and I try to take a little from everything. That's why I love Colin and Samir's podcast. They get so many creators that come on and talk about their process and how they work on their videos, and you can almost take a little piece of what everybody says. And for me, that's the most important part for me to work on my videos and my content.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say it's generally in both areas, whether through YouTube or running a creator company. Ultimately, it's just being with the peers that you're around in both respective industries. So with YouTube, always looking and talking with my friends and the creators who I collaborate with on a daily basis. Getting part of that, having a tight-knit circle of friends and creators, or people even in the business world who you really respect and who are doing good work, and surrounding yourself with those people. Ultimately, it's going to raise the tide and raise all ships, whatever the saying is. So yeah, for me, it's generally associating myself and being friends with those people I really respect and who are doing an amazing job. And through that, I find inspiration every single day to do better in both worlds.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I have one friend that I talk to 8 hours a day. Without somebody else in the field that understands what's going on, I would feel like I was going absolutely insane.
Yeah, 100%.
Anything that you would like to try to do in video content development, streaming content that you haven't done? Anything you want to try to pursue or go into next? I guess either one of you.
It's not necessarily content related, but I do want to start a brand. My main channel is called Surfnboy Shorts, and I want to make a brand called like Surf and Shorts, where they're like board shorts. And, yeah.
That's something I want to come across. Yeah, no, I love that.
Get the tribe logo on there, you know.
I think for me, being sort of just how we mentioned, you can be a little sequestered as a creator, like you're in your room and, creating content, especially you're not doing collabs. You can get bored of the same office every single day. I love doing IRL content, especially on mobile, because you can game absolutely anywhere. Probably my favorite video I've done is like skydiving out of a plane while playing mobile games as I free-falled. It was super fun. So doing more videos like that, being on the go, pushing the boundaries of mobile gaming, that's a teaser for some fun stuff we have coming with Samsung. So,
and kind of building on mobile gaming, whether it's specific to our products, tablets, mobile phones, anything, is there a particular device that you enjoy playing more with, or a particular set of capabilities that have kind of expanded over the past year or two that really feels like you're able to do things at a more enjoyable level than before?
Yeah, I think it varies in mobile, especially whether people are using a phone or tablet. Generally depends on the game, what you're trying to do, how many fingers you're trying to cram on one screen. For me, I've always been created content on phones, so using the S23 Ultra right now has been amazing. Obviously for us, especially, through my company and through esports and competition, and on the creative end of things, like wanting to be known as the best creatives within our respective field, or like best performing players within mobile esports, having the highest performing devices. In the end, if an artist has a paintbrush, a mobile gamer has their phone in the end, or whatever, our weapon, whatever you want to call it. Like, this is our thing. So being aligned with the category leader in the space to actually bring a lot of those things to life is super important. And with the S23, 120 hertz refresh rate, 5,000 milliamp battery. All these things go into what you need to be a core gamer, core mobile gamer, and do your best, whether creating or competing. And that's why, it's been a dream to work with Samsung.
Yeah. For me, I mainly focus on mobile shooters, and I play claw, like we were talking about earlier. So I use 5 fingers on my screen at once. So my go-to is a tablet, and specifically the Tab S8 Plus. The Ultra is a little too big for me, and then the regular one is just a little too small. The Plus is like the perfect spot for me. So being able to move my buttons and have that whole screen space, and I play shooters, so you need to see the whole map and have a good field of view, and then being able to have 90 FPS while I'm playing and be able to run that at a consistent rate for a long period of time without the device overheating, which then causes it to die quicker. That's where I really love my Samsung products, because I can rely on them for long gaming sessions, being able to perform at the peak for as long as possible.
As you're talking about how you enjoy playing, the content you develop, and so on and so forth, any particular traits that you think are sort of must-haves in terms of, or nice-to-haves, for whether you're creating streaming content or video content? Anything in particular that you think is maybe unique to that type of a platform versus maybe other kind of creator platforms or content? Anything that kind of stands out?
I feel like a relentless drive in the end is required, especially starting off. And honestly, it comes naturally. When you really start creating content and start streaming, and you find if you're really into it. I know with me starting off, when I saw 10 subscribers, I went to all my friends in my dorm, and I'm always like, "Who's subscribed to my channel?" I called my mom. I'm like, "Did you subscribe on 10 accounts?" And then hitting 100 subscribers and 1,000 subscribers. It's such a rush, especially in the beginning, starting to grow your channels. And then I feel like over time, it almost matures into pushing boundaries creatively as far as what you want to post and what you want to do, and finding so much enjoyment of putting out, even regardless of results. Because sometimes you'll, like you said, you spend so much time into these videos, and then one you just sort of think of and whip up. That one ends up getting 10 times as many views as the one that you brought in an entire team and produce all these things around it in the end. So really feeling amazing about the creative process over time, and having that same drive that you did even in the beginning when it came to just building your channel and following from the beginning. I think you have to have that in the end, but fortunately, because what we do is so much fun and it's so fulfilling in the end, that comes pretty easily.
We play games. But with gaming in general, there's so many different routes you can take to be successful. I have friends that have never showed their face or their voice ever. They're just so good at the game. People are so captivated by their gameplay. Whereas if you have a really good personality, you don't even really need to be good at the game. People just enjoy watching you. Or if you have a good combination of both, there's just so many different avenues you can take for gaming.
Any thoughts in terms of, with mobile gaming, tech plays a huge part in terms of what you're able to do, how do you continue to improve the experience. Any kind of thoughts in terms of how AI or other tech advancements might impact what you do here in the near term or, next couple of years? Any thoughts in terms of how the space might evolve and how you go about doing it?
I've seen a lot of people lately do stuff where it's like, they'll ask AI, like, I'm playing a Fortnite game, but give me rules. And then the AI would be like, oh, you can't use this gun, or this gun. And I think it makes for fun content. But other than that, I haven't personally used it for.
I feel like with game development, I'm really interested in that as far as like how AI is going to assist that process ultimately in the end. I think there's been fun uses through content creation, like you mentioned, and even using like AI generated voices to, go back and forth with people. I know even, my company trolled me yesterday and like did an AI of my voice and was being toxic with me online. So anyways, a lot of fun uses there. But I think on the game development side of things, I'm really curious to see like how ultimately that can improve the quality and speed of games being shipped and deployed as well as new product updates.
I want AI to make my thumbnails. So I'd be very happy.
The other thing that's interesting hearing from all the different creators as they're up here is kind of their journeys, what they kind of contemplate, and day-to-day life, what kind of got them into the space. But if you weren't into streaming, or if you never got into gaming, what do you think you'd be doing? At this point in time, I mean, it sounds like you'd be developing swim trunks, which is great. But anything else?
Oh man, if I never started streaming, I never really would have gotten super into content, because that was like the first push that I got to creating a community. Because even when I first started streaming, it's a very small community, but it was so tight because every single day we were spending hours and hours and hours together. And oh man, I don't even like to think where I'd be without content at all.
Yeah, I feel like for me, like when I falling into content creation, again, just purely out of passion, it was such an aha moment where for me, I always knew I wanted an outlet to be creative. I felt like at some point I wanted to like run my own business and do my thing and ultimately just like push boundaries. And what was really cool about content creation is that was like all of that in one: entrepreneurship, creativity, running your own business. So I don't know how that would have manifested elsewhere. I could have, sort of fallen into anything, but I would assume either something along those lines, but probably first, finishing that like finance and accounting degree before doing anything else.
Luckily, before me, we had people like Pat that paved the way, so I could look and be like, I want to be a creator, and I'll do everything I can to do that, or I'll die trying. So I don't think there really was any other option. I was just gonna keep making content until something worked.
What role does your followers and your fans, your communities, if you will, what type of feedback do you get from them? What type of inspiration, or how do you kind of interact with them? Because hearing some other panelists and content speakers, obviously there's positive and negative feedback that you might be getting, and maybe within your realms it might be a little bit different in terms of the type of content, or not content, but the types of feedback you're getting. Can you maybe kind of speak in terms of what you hear from your communities and how that kind of inspires you day to day?
Yeah, I feel like for me, I think throughout my entire content creation career, the one good thing that I've done is like never engage with the trolls or the haters in the end. Like just never responded to any of that. Just leave it as, because, ultimately if you like poke the bear, it's generally doesn't turn out well and just instigates more of that. So, but I mean, in general, the mobile community is super open arms. Everyone's great. 99.99% of the feedback you're going to get is really positive. And I think ultimately in the end, like building that closer relationship with your fans, especially in the gaming community specifically, is just so incredibly important. So the more ways you can do that, the better. Whether it's finding ways, I know through Tribe, we'll integrate some of our fans to have the chance to participate in our videos, special sessions through different chat platforms and more. But like building that, having a super close pulse on what your audience, what their interests are, what they want, and how they're feeling about your content. Ultimately, that's going to be your feedback loop in the end, outside of just like pure numbers for like how things are going with your channel.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The mobile community is such a tight-knit group, and everybody's super supportive of each other. Unless you try switching games sometimes. People get upset. You play one game once, and they're going to be like, are you never going to play Fortnite ever again? It's like, no, I just want to play another game. But other than that, it's sort of one of those things where you just have to pay attention, because some games don't last forever. You have to just keep up with the flow of everything and find new things that you enjoy, because like I said, it takes hours to make gaming content. Sometimes you don't even get content. If you're doing that on a game you don't enjoy, it would be miserable. So definitely staying with something that you enjoy.
Cool. So I think we have maybe time for one more question. It's kind of interesting because obviously gaming has been around quite some time, and you think about brand deals. All brands are interacting with gaming. It's not necessarily new, but maybe mobile gaming is a bit of a newer thing. And I think the two of you might have some different interesting perspectives in terms of how you're seeing sort of the business side of mobile gaming playing out with content creators and influencers. Anything you might want to kind of point out in terms of what you're personally maybe seeing or how you see that space evolving?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if I think back to the beginning of my career in 2012, again, at the time I mentioned earlier, like mobile games was 5% of global games revenue, something like definitely zero of the 10 biggest games and most watched games on YouTube were mobile games. Fast forward to today, something like 55% of global games revenue, so bigger than PC and console combined, is driven through mobile gaming. Something like probably 3 of the 5 biggest games on YouTube are mobile games or like mobile adjacent games where you can play on mobile. Just generally, the trend has continued to go to mobile over the course of the last decade. And if you look to now, especially when I started gaming, the first gaming device I ever played on was a Sega Genesis. So long ago, if you look at the first gaming device that kids and people are playing on nowadays, it's a mobile device. Yeah. So that's only continued to just grow, and trends and adoption keep pointing towards mobile, and that's why it's been such an exciting place to be a part of.
Yeah, I would say over time, as more like major titles come to mobile, it's really been changing everything. Like we have COD Mobile, Fortnite Mobile. Like Fortnite Mobile, you can play with PC and console players, and everybody has access to a phone. And not only is it just a phone, but it performs like just as good, if not better, than like consoles and PC. And the access is incredible. And I see the whole mobile industry just flourishing over the next few years.
Yeah, and speaking to that, in the first 5 years of my career, it was mostly just mobile native games being developed. But now if you look at the last 5 years, all of the major IPs and AAA type titles, Call of Duty, Fortnite, and more, they all realize that mobile is where where a giant player base is, where they can end up monetizing these IPs and create amazing games. So that's why we've seen a massive transition to where all of these different titles that you've traditionally known on PC and console have come to mobile. And because those IPs already are so successfully ingrained into gaming, they're having a lot of success with the mobile space.
Cool. Thank you, Drew and Pat. It's been awesome, Chief Pat. It's been an awesome opportunity to kind of hear from you. And before we move on, just a reminder to everyone that's watching on the live stream, remember that if you're interested in joining us next year in person, click the survey link in the description and let us know by sharing your email. But we definitely appreciate your time, and thanks a lot.